Good day. We start today the modules time and cost planning. You're going to have four lectures or four mini lectures in this model. And the fifth one is about advances in time estimation, where I'm going to talk about some research that are going on in this topic. So many of the content of this lecture comes from some publication in the projectmanagementinstitute.org, from some journals, and also from the textbook, the optional textbook. So we're gonna take one example that we're gonna use in showing how to practice with the skills and the technique that we're gonna talk in this model. And the example here, example project, the goal of the project is to develop a low-cost fleet monitoring system. It includes a device installed in a bus that collects data from their in-vehicle networks and sends them to a remote server along with the location. This project is, I had it in senior design project about years ago. And the team already got the best project award from the industry consortium for when they evaluate the project. The project had three deliverables. One is the first one is data collection component, a device that collects data from the car and sends them to a remote server along with the location of the vehicle. Data visualization, web application that visualizes the position of each vehicle along with information collected from its network, and data analysis web application to run ad hoc statistics using the data. So those are the main deliverables. So our goal in this model is to answer the question, how much does it cost to develop the system or the software, and how long does it take to develop the software? So we want to answer those, we're gonna want to answer these two questions. So in order to answer this question, we are going to have four basic mini lecture. The first one is on identification of project activity. The second one is on estimation of the activity resources. The third is on sequence of activity. And the last one, we're going to talk about project management tools, estimation, project cost, and some information related to project estimation and cost estimation. So as I said, those are the main ones, but the fifth one is the advances on software estimation. So there are basically three techniques for the identification. When I talk here about identification of activity, I would say, what does it take in order to produce a specific development? What should we do in order to develop that? And there are three known techniques for identification of project activity. Those are, the first one is expert judgment. The second one is using WBS, work breakdown structure. So we're going to use all the time mostly this abbreviation for work breakdown structure. And the third one is rolling wave planning. So if you are going to develop a project, for example, I'm going to take now a fleet management, low-cost fleet management system. I developed it previously, let's say this kind of application. Then if the company gets another project from another customer, then since I have the experience in the previous one, I will be able to identify the activity, right, that we need as a team need to develop in order to produce a similar system to the new customer. So expert judgment here comes that there is an expert, someone who actually has an expertise in that domain or in that application, and they're going to bring that experience to do the same, to identify the activity for a new project. So it is in general that it is going to be rare that someone has experience in a specific type of project, then they are going to reproduce it. is possible, but often this is not the case, because in software engineering, this is a research and development project where you develop something, then the next time that you are going to develop, to have another project, there will be some similarity, but they will be not exactly, or the resemblance to the previous project is less. So you're not going to reproduce things. This is not like building houses where you can reproduce the same activity. You'll have walls, you have things are the same. In software engineering, so the project, they have some similarity, but they change all the time, and all the time we're gonna learn new things. So expert judgment applies for construction, applies for different domains, but it has much more or less application to software engineering, although it is possible. The second technique is to use work breakdown structure. We're going to talk about it now. Then after that, we're going to talk about the rolling wave planning. So work breakdown structure is a hierarchical decomposition of the project to create manageable pieces of software. So that is the goal. So we want to decompose the work into manageable part that is easy to understand. So it specifies the steps that we would do, or the activity that we would do in order to finish the project. We want to know what steps should I do in order to finish the project. And it shows also the path to have the project complete. So basically here we are setting strategy, because this is, if the project is big, then we have on the long term how actually we are going to produce the software that we promised the customer, and we sign it that with the customer that we're going to deliver that project. So those are the two main things that we need for work breakdown structure. There are two approaches to create work breakdown structure. One is the top-down approach, and the second one is the bottom-up approach. Recall that when we talk about work breakdown structure, we call about hierarchical decomposition of the project, right? There is a hierarchy there. So there are first level, which is the project itself. And then the second level is the decomposition of the project. Then the third level is the decomposition of the subsystem. Let's say if we're going to talk about subsystem, and so on. So you could have different level on the work breakdown structure, as many level as you want. For the sake of this course, we're going to call the first level is the project itself. You might say that this is level 0, but I'm going to make it this is level 1 for this course. We're not going to use the C kind of level here, but you're going to use the Java representation where the first item is 1, not 0. So those are the two main approaches. So if we take the first one, the top-down hierarchical representation here. The decomposition is the technique here for dividing and subdividing the project scope. So we take the project scope that we have at the beginning and the deliverables, and we want to have hierarchical decomposition. So at the first stage, we take the project, this is level 1, this is the full project, but the second level, we're going to decompose the project basically here on either the deliverables, and if we take our first example here, so we have 3 deliverables. We're going to have deliverable 1, data collection component, deliverable 2, data visualization, then deliverable 3, data analysis, right? So that is one approach for the top-down approach, one way to decompose the system at level 2. The second approach is to use the life cycle phases. In the first lecture, we talked about life cycle of a project, and we talked that there will be the requirement, the coding, the testing, and the deployment, and the design. So we would decompose also the system at level 2 based on what do we need on the requirement level, what do we need on the design level, what do we need on the development level, coding, the testing, and the deployment. Another approach, if we have an architecture that we've done already, the architecture, we can decompose the system based on components. So component one, component two, components three. It is possible that you have a different way of decomposing the system. Probably one of the possibility is to have, if you have geographical area. So if you have a subsystem that is going to be developed, let's say in a location in Des Moines, and another one is going to be developed in a team in San Jose, by team in San Jose. Another team will be in India, another team in China. So you might have the decomposition of the project at level 2 based on the geographical location of your teams. Again, here you might have different. There would be different. There would be different. You might use any logic for the decomposition of the system that you see appropriate. But we're going to focus mainly in this course on the two first decomposition here, the deliverables and the life cycle phases, because those information, we know them, it's easy. So at the end, as I said, we need to come up with simple, at lower level, with some activity that are manageable, everyone can understand, or we have uh, almost a common understanding of what are the activity that we need, and with a size that is acceptable, size that everyone would understand. So if we start about the project and they're going to say this is will take almost, let's say, 1 year, or we're going to spend 2 million on the project, those are big. But if I'm going to say that will take me the activity, so it's small enough that we understand, all the team members understand what is the content of this activity, then we are doing good job, right? So in the bottom-up work breakdown structure, the steps are for the bottom-up work breakdown structure are enumerate all the activity to finish the project. So group the activity using common themes, and group the themes into groups. Repeat the grouping until you reach the root of the three. So in the top down, we go with the first level, we divide at the second level, we divide the project into, let's say, deliverable or phases. Then we decompose these phases or these deliverable in more manageable activity, and we could go in the decomposition levels until we get something that is manageable. In the bottom up, it's the opposite. So we enumerate all the activity to finish the project. We would say, what do we need to do in order to finish the project? Then we bring this activity and we group them into themes. We would say that this activity, we need them for this deliverable, this activity, a set of activity for another deliverables. Then we go to the next level, which are the deliverables. Then we go and those deliverables, they compose the project, right? So we would group the activity in common themes, and we would group the themes into common groups, and we can go in a higher level with this grouping until we get. So one keyword here for work breakdown structure, it has a tree structure, and the top of the tree is the root, which is to design the project, right? So you have to remember that. So advices here when you develop a work breakdown structure, the number of activity that we have needs to be manageable activity. So we should not exceed 100 activity in a project. If you've done, then you have to split the project in subsystems. Then you could have something that is manageable. When you do the division also at the same level, do not go beyond 10 items in the same level in the hierarchy. So if we go to the level 2, then the number of deliverables, for example, if we decompose the system by deliverable, should not exceed 10 deliverables. If it does, then we really have to split that. So we can have something that we can manage. So when dividing the component, we should think about who will do it. If you have an activity, then that activity at lower level, it needs to be done by one member. So if you need all the team to work on the same activity, then we break already the rule of assigning responsibility for tasks, and then we do not have a way to ensure that the task will be done. Um, we need also to associate the activity to kind of risks. We should consider the risks in doing the activity, and we should consider how can we measure the progress in developing the project. So we have a set of activity, but we want to measure that we are making progress there. So when we develop work breakdown structure, we have two things that are needed. One is the correctness, and the second one is the completeness. So in the correctness here, the low level work breakdown structure are necessarily and sufficient for the completion of the higher level component. So when we divide the project based on work, let's say deliverable, it might be that it would be possible that you're going to ask the question: are the division that we got, or the items in the level 2 that we got, are they sufficient to develop the system? And it's so possible that you're going to say the first one is no, because we need one part, which is the preparation. We need to get the hardware, and we need to install the development setup, to install the development environment. We need to design the architecture. So those activities, they're going to take time that we need to consider them, but the activity, the deliverable, working on only the deliverable is not sufficient. So this is an example. So we would complete the work breakdown structure with whatever information we would believe that are needed, whatever activity we would believe it's needed to finish the project, whether on the deliverable levels, let's say if we have decomposition on deliverable, or to complement this subdivision. We need also to think about those here that the activity are necessary to finish the project. If there are activities that we don't need them to finish the project, then those activity we should remove them, because that contribute to the correctness of the project. So at lower level, we need to have all the activity that we have that are on the low level. They are required for the higher level. So to finish the project, which is on level 1, the root, we have a specific set of deliverable, and we have, let's say, the preparation, and we cannot ignore any of these deliverable, because if we need the 3 deliverable, let's say in the fleet management system, we have 3 deliverable. If we take out one of these deliverables, then we will not finish the project. So it is required. So in general, in some representation of the trees, the team, they use abbreviation. Work breakdown structure 1, let's say deliverable, and there is a code. And working later on with this work breakdown structure, it's going to be difficult. And to address that, often we require to have work breakdown dictionary. And the dictionary here is a document that provides details about the deliverable, the activity, and information for scheduling. So in the dictionary, we take each item of the work breakdown structure tree, and we provide at least some description of the work that is going to be there. But to the best, we should provide assumptions that we have in the division, responsible organization, especially if we have teams that are located in different places, acceptance criteria. When are we going to say that deliverable 1 is accepted or deliverable 2 is accepted? So what are the acceptance criteria? So we would provide enough information that helps to work later on in the project. But at least there is a description is sufficient. In your submission, usually I'm going to use, let's say, one sentence that describes or let's say a few words that describe the work breakdown structure activity, And I expect those few words, they will be sufficient to understand what the item is about. So if you do not do that, if you do not write that sentence or enough terms there, and your approach is to write, let's say, a code and code these levels, then you should provide a work breakdown structure dictionary where you could have enough description. You have description that should be sufficient for the work with the work breakdown structure. So what do we use the work breakdown structure for? We use the work breakdown structure for the scheduling. So we would know what activities should we develop in order to finish the project. We would use the work breakdown structure in the cost estimation and in the assessment of the project delivery, duration, and we would use also the work breakdown structure for the risk identification. So the next models after this one will be on risks, and we're going to see how actually we can use the work breakdown structure for the risk estimation. So let's take the example now on a work breakdown structure. We take again here the example. The goal of the project is develop a low-cost fleet monitoring system. We have three deliverables again: data collection component, data visualization, and data analysis. So the exercise is to develop a work breakdown structure of the low-cost fleet monitoring system using the deliverables on the first level. There is the code here from the team that developed this low-cost fleet monitoring system. The last one, data analysis, I think they did not push some code there. They have some code with R, but really not advanced or does not show much of the work because they started that, but they have a high learning curve to develop that. So if you're gonna if you want to know how much code you would need to write, you might go to the GitHub link here and get some hints about how much code you are gonna do. But in general, in estimation, we are not going to rely on code that is written, right? So this new project, and we did not develop something that is like that before. But here, since you used in code, so I used this example. So you have an estimation of, you can see how much code was written. So that helps you. So the first here example, we are going to work on the here using the deliverables. And in the deliverables here, I split the project into the three deliverable: data collection, data visualization, and data analysis. But in order to make sure that we have all the activity that we need in order to deliver the project, we needed also another item on the same hierarchy as the deliverable, which is preparation. So in the second level, we have preparation, data collection, data visualization, data analysis. And the first level is the root, which is the project itself. And on the third level, we take the preparation here. I said we need to acquire the hardware to do the development. This is not the hardware for the deployment, but this is the hardware to do the job. We need the sensors, we need the devices that we are going to install on the cars. We need probably some laptops, a server, and so on. We need also to set up the development environment. We need to install the software that we are going to use to develop the system. We need also here to design the architecture of the system, which is part of the preparation. We need to have a strategy of what are the technology that we are going to use, what are the main requirement, the main functionality, what are the quality attributes for the system. So, and how actually we're going to satisfy these major requirement and quality attributes. We need also to develop a project plan. So we have a plan for how to achieve things. The second part is the second item on the second level is the data collection. And here we're going to develop one model to acquire data from the sensor. The second model is to send the data to the server. And the third model here, we store data into database. There will be more models here, but here I gave an example, and this is in no way it is complete. We should also flesh out the component, the item data visualization, and also the item data analysis. And it is possible that in data analysis, most in data analysis, that we're going to have, for example, there some prototyping and some learning, some training. Even training, we should have that in the work breakdown structure. So if we need a training on data analysis techniques or languages, then we need that training to be in this structure. Another decomposition here of the same project, but here using phases. And the phases that we have: requirement elicitation, project planning, architecture design, development, testing, and then delivery. And I flashed out here some item for the architecture design the architecture of the system, design the data collection component, and we can go on to have the design of the visualization component, design of the data analysis component. So we would have the different design. In the development, I have the development of the data collection component, and here data collection, we need to develop a component to collect the data from the sensor. We need to develop some models to send the data to the server. We need to develop models to store the data on the server. We have other we might need other activity like receive the data from the server, cleaning the data before already we need to store it on the database. So formatting the data before sending it to the server. We could have a set of other activity that we think about, such that at the end we can identify all the activity that are necessary and to develop the high level items, and we could have a complete a complete work breakdown structure for the system. So the last technique, the third technique for project management is the rolling wave planning. So the rolling wave planning here approach is an iterative approach where the work to be accomplished in the near future is planned in details, while the work to be accomplished in the future, in the longer future, is planned at high level. So we talk about the activity that we need in 1 month. Those we plan them on high level, but the activity that we need them, let's say in the next 2 weeks or in the next 3 weeks, we plan them in details. So we have here progressive elaboration of the plan, right? As more known about the upcoming deliverable, uh, event work breakdown can be described. And we need to focus on deliverable and have other tasks at other activity at the high level. So I'm gonna post here practice 3. And in practice 3, you're gonna develop one breakdown structure of the water management system that I gave for the project, but I'm gonna post it again. And your goal is to develop a work breakdown structure. You can select one of the approaches that I talked about, which are based on the deliverables, based on the life cycle, phases, or based on system component. You choose one approach, you specify that in your submission, and you do your complete work breakdown structure. And you also describe your justification. Why should you believe that the tasks that you provided are sufficient and they are complete? So I will review your practice 3, give you feedback, and you're going to use this feedback later on to work when you work on your next project deliverables, so the next project parts. We finish here the first activity for this model, and we stop here. And we're going to talk about the next model. Thank you.